June, get ready. You're going to your auntie's.
I don't want to go to my auntie's.
You're only going to be there a few hours.
No, I don't want to go there because my cousin always messes with me.
But tell his mama.
Hey, this is Mind, Health, and Wellness with LaJune. It's May 11th, which is the anniversary death of my cousin, sister, friend, Lynn. And we want to celebrate and honor her as well as talk about grief, how grief affects your mental and physical body because it is also mental health and women's health month. I want to welcome back Angel Malone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Looking
Thank
all pretty in
you.
your
Thank
yellow.
you. I'm all bright today. Hello, hello. Thanks for
And
having me.
she would definitely love that because you know she loved colors and
Yes,
different
Lord.
things. So mark the year today.
Yes.
How has the last 12 months been for you without having and making that transition of not having your best friend because you guys used to hang out a
Mhm.
lot
A lot.
and do things and just how has that looked for you or is that still something you're trying to adjust to because you know sometimes it's challenging to try to allow people in and it's not about letting people take her place it's
Yeah,
about you know it's not the same so
yeah.
can you kind of talk about that.
Well, you said it perfectly. It's not the same, but nobody can take her place. You know, everybody has their own place, but she just had a different place in everybody's life. She made us all feel seen and welcome. And I think I told someone today, life just isn't as joyful without Lynn. Because she was just the funny person. You're gonna laugh, and I was like, I miss laughing. Every day. I think that's not what I miss the most, but it's one of those things that I miss a lot from her because I realized like I don't laugh as much as I used to laugh because like you said, we were always hanging out. It was always something to laugh at, or something she did or was trying to do or just being silly. We just had fun. So that laughter part, I miss that a lot because it's just like it just feels like a little piece of joy is gone. The world's not quite the same without Lynn. It has been an adjustment, and it's been like a roller coaster adjustment. Lots of good, some bad mixed in there, some confusion, just all the emotions kind of been waving in. Today has been really good. Surprisingly, I have my good days, my bad days, um, but so far so good. It's been a trying year. It doesn't feel. Sometimes it feels like just yesterday. Sometimes it feels like it's been years. Every day brings something different. But she is definitely still missed. I feel the loss of her not being here in the day to day, with simple things like the weekends rolling around. It's like hey, she'd be calling like, hey, let's go get a drink. Let's take these boys to do whatever. And so I do miss that. I miss that because I'm a planner. She had no plan, so it could be 3 o'clock, and she's like, hey, let's meet across town at 5. And it's like, oh God, I don't feel like it. But it's like once you got there, you're gonna have fun. Like just push through to get there. So I miss that. I really, really do. And I think just being in similar places in life right now, um, with raising the teenage boys, they were about to leave. I think that kind of just helped, with time, with things and goals and things we were doing, just as women, supporting each other. That support system is gone, to raising these teenage boys, even though, they're both done with high school now. Still, it was a little village. So she's definitely it. She's definitely
Yeah, definitely that. I think certain like not Memorial Day, but certain holidays that pass, like Easter. And I'm like, oh, let me text her and see what she's doing because
yeah,
I know last year she went to her friend's house and they had Easter dinner or
yeah.
whatever. But just, joyous moments or something that has happened, like, oh, let me text her and tell her, about this. And just, strolling through my phone is it's not as it was before, where, now sometimes I still like poke my lip out like that pouty, like she's not here.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it has definitely been a time. It is moments where, I'm like you mentioned, like you have your good days, and it's moments where it's like I really miss her.
Yeah.
So it is, definitely those moments, but it has. I think for me, what I was able to do was tap into what she poured into my life and what I gained from our sisterhood, our friendship, our family connection, and also, you know, having that piece of her, checking in with Vincent during the week, how he's doing. Um, it has definitely been that for me. And as we all know, and with you, you definitely had several losses from last year to this year.
Yeah.
Um, and how it affects your body and how it shows up in your day to day. So if you can kind of talk about your experience of how are you managing, because I was just with this lady I had dropped off, and she was saying how she had lost so many people last year
Mhm.
and how it still weighs on her. So if you can kind of talk about how that looks for you.
It's a struggle. Like I said, everything is just it's like a day by day, because you're gonna have that day where you're just bawling your eyes out, and another day where you're joyful because you're remembering all the good times. I think when we last spoke, I had lost like four people last year in a short span. I think March through August. Friends, grandfather, Lynn, and then this year, actually just February till now, I've lost another close friend of almost 30 years, an aunt, and most recently, I just went to my uncle's funeral last weekend. So it's constant, it's just such a horrible season of grief going on. That's 7 people in 13, 14 months so far, and it's just like, Lord, when is it gonna stop? So it's gotten to the point. I think I kind of ran out of tears. That's kind of the way I felt lately. Like I don't know if I can cry anymore, or it's not coming like I want it to. There's a block sometimes where it's like your heart is aching, you want to cry, but it's like there are no more tears to pull up. So it has been a struggle, but some days it's okay. I can deal with it. I'm remembering the good times. like you mentioned, she left us so many memories, and I think I said it before about her with pictures. You know, she was the photo op, she was the photographer, the videographer. So if you were ever in her presence, you have pictures. So she left us with all those memories. I did go back and look at some funny videos, look at a lot of pictures last night and today, and those kind of gave me solace and calmness because she lived life fully, and you want to kind of follow in those footsteps. So I just reflect on the good times and, her advice and her support, in the hard times. And that has still helped me through. It's like, oh, she wouldn't want me, all down. And, I go also to my parents and my grandparents. They wouldn't want me, down. But it still is, as much as you have those good days, those hard days are going to hit. Sometimes grief just overtakes you, and that's me. It gets me sometimes, and that does still, kind of mess with my health. Grief, stress, emotional things, they affect your body. Long term, I've had a lot of grief the last probably 13, 14 years, so it does take a toll. Still working on that, not going to stop, but I'm learning to deal with the grief a lot better. Like I said previously, therapy, even acupuncture. Surprisingly, I went to acupuncture for some pain, and it's just released all these emotions. It's allowed me though to be a little more calm and a little more relaxed and be in that place of calmness to reflect on grief differently some days. It doesn't work every day, but some days it does. So it is a process, a constant process, but I find myself remembering the good times more than her being gone because that's what she would want. She lived a life. You don't want to focus on her not being here, the death or whatever. You want to focus on the life that she lived. And she lived fully, joyfully, carefree, such a giving person to everybody. She helped everybody. She helped people we'll never know she helped. She was always doing something secretively. If I brought something to her attention that, was donating to her, somebody was going through a hard time, she's there and you wouldn't even know it. And I'm like, I think that person who did that anonymously, like, that was you, right? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, yep, that was you. So she was just always there. And, you don't meet people who just freely give regardless and openly give. And when it leaves her hand or her possession, it's gone. She's not, oh, I did this, I did that, look at what I did. It was just straight from the heart, and that was a wrap. So it's hard because, you don't meet people like that. There's not a lot of people who, give that presence and, are there for you as a friend, like you said, a sister, everything, and she was there equally for all of us, everybody. I remember when she passed, like, oh, my best friend passed. I'm like, she's my best friend. And somebody else was like, my best friend. It's like she was all of our best friend because that's the way she made you feel. So it is an adjustment still. Like I say, more good days than bad, but the bad days are bad and the good days are good. You mentioned checking on our son. We're checking. He has so many aunties now that are making sure he's good. So she left us a little piece of her through him, and that helps so much because he's just been so strong and resilient, as a young man, and she'd be so proud. So that kind of gives me joy, and, checking on him, like he's still living on through her. So we have our little village for him, to continue to support him. But grief is a booger. It can get you. It can really dig in there and get you. You just have to take it how you want. And I am like, grieve however you need to grieve because I always go back to somebody told me after my mom passed, I think it had been 2 or 3 months, and they were like, it's been, 2, 3 months or whatever, like pretty much like get over it. And it's like you haven't lost a parent. You have no clue what it's like, so don't speak on it. And don't tell people how to grieve. Some people cry, some people never cry, and they hold it in or they, process it in a different way. Let a person grieve however they want to grieve. So that's what I focus on. If I feel like crying today, I'm going to cry. If I feel like talking about her all day today, I'm going to talk about her. If I feel like looking at pictures and just remembering her or, creating a post, that's what I'm going to do. because it's just a process. The grief is for a lifetime. You're always going to miss that person. There's going to be a void in your life, but you got to keep living. And that's what she would want. She always said, keep living, and she was going to live her best life and just be encouraged, and God is in control. All her little quotes, I go through those often, just to keep pushing. Just keep pushing, even in the hard times, even through sickness and ailments and things. Just keep pushing. So, been trying to do that, continue to do that, and it's not a, oh, you're done and it's over. You have a process. You can have a process where you're going through it for a couple of years, then it's gone for a while, and it can come back later.
Right.
So, yeah, it's continual.
And what you said about, not being able to cry, I think for you and your experience of losing so many people, you're all cried out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, to a point, it's like, okay, when is it going to end?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it can definitely be exhausting. It can definitely be, you're questioning God, okay, what is this? And what am I supposed to receive from
Mhm.
this or take on from this of losing so many people in the short span of time, and that in itself is mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausting. Every
Yes.
time getting a phone call or a text message is somebody else now. So not a easy thing at all, especially when you really don't know how to wrap your head around it,
Yeah.
basically.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. Yeah, that's the part. And there's no right or wrong, and that's the thing I'm learning, because it feels like some days it feels like a bubble. Like, why can't I cry? Or why am I feeling like this? And it's like, why not? Sometimes you just have to sit in that emotion and pray, do whatever you need to do, meditate. Just take a moment, take a day, whatever it is. But it's hard because every day is different. Grief, it's like cycles. It's not going to be the same. You're not just going to cry at the funeral, the wake, at the gravesite, and then it's over. You're not just going to cry the first 3 months, then never cry again. It's a cycle, it's a process, and everybody's just different. And it is extremely taxing, to continue to have it. And sometimes it just hits like a wave out of nowhere. But I think just what I mentioned before, talking to a therapist and learning about grief kind of opens up things, having that person to talk to let it out. Just meditating and praying and remembering and reflecting on the good times, not making that person's passing their legacy. Like, their death is not the beginning and the end. Their memory continues to be with you. So you have to kind of honor that, and then also always reflect on, my mom, my dad, my grandparents, my uncles, my aunts, my Lynn. They wouldn't want me sitting around moping and crying all the time about it. But I'm gonna have my moments, and that's perfectly fine. So just trying to find what works for you. And like I said, it's weird to say, but there's no consistency as far as my grief is concerned. There's no resolve. I have a good day, I have a bad day. So it's just a continual process. But in it, I continue to find peace and knowing, we'll see them again one day. Hopefully, we'll see them again one day. In the meantime, just living on their legacy, all the memories and the good times and things that they left behind. Like I said, with Lynn, we still have Vincent, and we're rallying around him and just being a source of pretty much a village, a family for Vincent, an extended family for Vincent. So we're still, there with Lynn in some form or fashion, because she left us a piece of her.
And definitely, I think with grief, especially being from where we're from, the South and just our community as a whole, as Black people, we were never taught to deal with grief. It was somebody died and life went on.
Yeah.
It wasn't, because I can remember my dad died, and it wasn't ever that conversation of how you feeling.
Okay.
It was never questioning or asking how I was feeling as a child,
Child,
that
exactly. We
has
never
lost
did.
her dad. It was literally like, okay, he died, life goes on, go
Mhm.
play, go. And I think that's the thing that we have to understand. We try to literally bury with that
Yeah.
person
Those memories, those thoughts, those
those
emotions.
thoughts, those memories, how you feeling, and life goes on. And the reality is, it doesn't, because you wake up, that person isn't there anymore. That person is not walking through the door anymore. Those phone calls, text messages, all that cease. And I know, a lot of people try to, okay, it's okay. I'm gonna be okay, and just
Yeah.
keep going,
Push
going,
through.
going. And they try to ignore it. They try to busy themselves, and with that, it causes illness. It
Yeah.
causes stress. It causes so many things because we keep trying to
Bury it.
bury our feelings
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
that person, and the
Exactly.
reality is, it starts to haunt you because
Yeah.
you're like, well, damn, I'm really missing that person. Damn, my birthday. Damn, their birthday.
Yes.
Damn,
Those holidays, those
those
weekends.
holidays. Definitely yesterday, Mother's Day.
Yeah.
I typically text her Happy Mother's Day, and
Yep.
then I'm like, I I can't text her anymore.
Exactly. 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 It's a hard adjustment. It really, really is. But like you said, with burying it, it's only gonna stay buried so long. You can only push it down and cover it up so long before it's gonna come out. And when it comes out, the longer you've pushed it down and kept it in, the harder it's gonna come out. So you have to deal with it, and you have to be open to, hey, maybe it's not just a one cry and done. This may go on for a long time. It may go on for a short time. You may have spurts of grief throughout life. You just have to learn to deal with it, but you also have to give yourself grace. And what you mentioned earlier about like life going on, I know you were a small child, so that is just a whole nother level of
Yeah,
not
yeah,
being able to speak
yeah,
on your grief. And we're
yeah,
adults now, and it's hard. So I can
yeah,
only imagine as a child, and
yeah.
your father.
So,
Just
and it is right, and it's definitely a different thing when you are a child and you don't understand death, because during that time growing up, literally family was dying left and right.
yeah,
My maternal grandfather died, I think, when I was 4. I had an uncle who died of cancer. It was just a bunch of family
yeah.
members dying left and right, left and right.
Mhm.
But the icing on the cake was my dad. My uncle, which was my dad's brother, I was, I knew him, and as a kid, he joked around or whatever. I really wasn't close with my maternal grandfather. Um, but just it was just like all these people dying, but it was never explained
Yeah.
to
Or
you.
address the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
It was never that conversation of, okay, it's a time for things to die.
Mhm.
So it just, and I think that is, something big that parents should have those conversations
Yeah.
with their kids. Even adult parents with their, adult kids,
Yeah.
parents having those conversations with their adult kids. How are you feeling?
Yeah.
I know you loved your dad or your mom. How are you feeling?
Yeah. Checking
You
in.
checking
Mhm.
in, having those talks, and I think that would definitely help. Even, kids asking parents, "How are you?"
How they're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
We had to
they
check
lost
on
a
each other.
spouse, right?
Mhm. Mhm. So so true.
But
And I think what you I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I just think that that's not something in our community that is big, especially therapy. You mentioned grief therapy.
Yeah.
We
Yeah. It isn't. And something you mentioned about just, parents talking to their kids, I think that's why, her son, Vincent, how he just does so well because she talked to him through losing grandparents and things throughout the years. And he built this resilience. It just shows you, how it could go if you do talk to your kids. You allow them to understand and know that this is what happens in life, and it's a hard thing, but we're all going to go through it. We're all going to leave here one day. We weren't put here forever, and not making it like get over it, kind of get over it. Because as an adult, I felt that way with my mom and my dad passing it, and a lady told me after my dad passed. I think I was at the repast, and she's like, "Look around, baby." And I looked around, and she's like, "All these people will be gone tomorrow." And it was
Oh
bigger
wow.
than just her saying, they'll be gone tomorrow. It was bigger than that, and but realistically, they would be gone. Nobody's calling you Monday, and like there's not a lot of people who are calling Monday and Tuesday and the next month and 2 weeks later and 2 months later and 2 years later to see how you're doing. It's like, okay, we've had the funeral, we've had the wake, she's in the ground, he's in the ground. Okay, let's move on. And mentally I was in a space of I lost my mom, I lost my dad. Like, hello, everybody's just moving on. It kind of feels like, how can you do that? There was a loss, but you can kind of be in that bubble by yourself or feel like you're by yourself, and people don't understand. And I always say people who haven't gone through it could never understand. Before I lost my parents, I had a friend who used to tell me, you lose she had lost her parents, both of them. And she's like, you just don't understand. She go through it. And I was like, I can kind of imagine, what it would be like without them. It's hurtful, but no, it's like 100 times worse than what you're imagining. So to be able to allow yourself to feel how you feel is huge. And like we were talking about therapy and any other process that helps you, you can't just hold it in. You can't just bury it. You got to deal with it. You got to deal with it. And having a great support system, and she was my support system, because um, just like you, we kind of grew up together. I know you're her cousin. You were there from day one, and I met her as a kid, and we talked about stuff like that. We talked about her dad passing when she was young. We talked about my parents passing and my grandmother, and then we just remember old times. Hey, you remember when we went over to the house and this and that. Same thing with her mom. We talk about old times with them and memories, and so we kind of kept them alive in that way. So I think as a community, sometimes we don't talk about them, we don't bring it back up again, but they're living on through those conversations. It's okay to talk about them and remember good times and laugh and, bring them up around family. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not, you know, a block or a wall that you can't talk about anymore. It's okay to talk and laugh. And I think we got a lot of that this weekend with my uncle's passing. Everybody was kind of down and sad, and I did get to spend time with my uncles, which is my dad's brother, with his siblings and some cousins on that side, on the paternal side. And it was just supposed to be a quick trip, maybe an hour, and it turned into hours because it wasn't just sitting around grieving. We talked, we laughed, we talked about other stuff. It's okay. It's not um, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a unforbidden topic
All right.
because we just had his funeral. We can't talk about anything else. We got to talk about him or we got to cry about it because that's not what he want us to do. He laughed, he joked, he lived, he had fun. So we did. We're honoring him by living like he lived, living like he want us to live. He wouldn't want us sitting around crying. So we laughed, we talked, we ate, we watched the kids play, and we just had a good old time. And at the end of the night, we were like, dang, we needed that. It felt good. So grief is not always just sitting around crying and mourning. We did it in a joyful way. And it didn't start like that on purpose. It's just the way the night led. We just ended up growing as we went house to house. We got bigger and bigger until we got to the last house. And it was just everybody. And it's like, hey, Ma, it's like, hey, y'all hungry? You want some fish? It's like, hey, let's eat. And it just turned into a celebration. They say homegoing and a homegoing celebration. We celebrated him that night, and I know he was smiling down because he really wanted family to come together. So I look at that kind of with Lynn. She's like, always, even when I felt horrible, and she's like, come on, let's go out. And I'm like, girl, I'm tired. I don't feel good. She's like, I'll come get you. I'm like, I'm still tired. I don't feel good. And it's like, and it took everything in me to push to go, but because I knew once we got wherever we were going, I
You
was
was
gonna
gonna have a
forget
good
and I'm gonna
time.
laugh and I'm just gonna have fun and it's gonna be okay. So it's like the painkiller for what I needed. And so that's kind of what happens sometimes. Sometimes you need those people. You need that. And when you lose such a big person who was like that, she was like that. My uncle checked on me and was like that. So you start losing those key people who just really are an intricate part of your life. It's hard. So you need your own little village, even if it's just that one person who you could talk to and, just have fun with, take your mind off of it, opposed to just sitting around crying. We have to live. We have to go on living as hard as it is, no matter who you've lost. I know people who have lost spouses and children and, just anybody, everybody. And it's a hard walk. You can't imagine if you haven't lost a parent what it's like. You can't imagine what it's, like if you haven't lost a kid. So everybody has a journey, but my biggest thing would be to those people around people who have had losses, not just recently. Check on your friends and your people and your family who lost somebody last year, 2 years ago. Just randomly check on people. We don't do that enough. We don't check on each other enough. It's just like everything's over. Everybody's checking on you. Like the lady told me at church, all these people be gone tomorrow. And she was right. You get all those calls. It feels like when they pass until after the repast. Maybe that Sunday, Monday, if you had it on the weekend, and then it dies down. And not that you have to call somebody or check on them every day, but just knowing somebody's there for you and that you're allowed to just have a conversation and talk and release. It makes a huge difference to have a good support group or good support person if it's just one person. Grief is a process. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, I know. She and I lost. She lost her dad when she was 8. I lost my dad when I was 6. So
Mhm.
it was close to around the time, and I knew I wanted to be intentional with Vincent
Mhm.
because I didn't want it to be the situation like you mentioned
Yeah.
when that parent or family member dies, you don't hear or see the family anymore. And I wanted to be intentional in letting him know I am here. And I let him know when I initially texted him. I apologized. I said, I am so sorry that I didn't reach out to you sooner because I didn't know how to wrap my head around
Yeah.
losing your mom
Yeah. Because you're going through it too.
because I'm going through it too.
Mhm.
But at this point on, I'm here and I'm
Yeah.
going to text you every week, multiple times in a week. I am
Exactly.
here because
Mhm.
I want you to know I love you. You're not just my cousin, you're my nephew.
Mhm. I know.
And I care about you and anything I can help you with, I am here. So don't think cuz I was like even though he's so much older,
Mhm.
you will
But you
still
got to.
always feel that loss
Yeah.
and that where did everybody go, because that was the thing for me. Where did everybody go?
Exactly. Exactly. everybody's there, when everything is going on, then it's kind of over. It's over. And something you said that gives me joy is his village. I started the text message and started getting people together, and it's just amazing when I send something, and it's like, hey, we're gonna do his senior game. We're gonna celebrate the birthday. How many people show up? How many people checking in with him? And just even just like you said, us just texting or calling every week or whatever. It's like it's a nice group of people, and it just makes my soul feel good that he has such a good support group, that he truly has a village, and a lot of the blessings he's receiving with the support are from the cup his mom filled up, and all of us. We're there for some of the blessings that she provided for us. He's not forgotten. And I think it's just so beautiful how we've all come together and become his surrogate aunties, because I immediately was like, hey, you're my nephew too. So he calls me auntie too now. I'm like, you're my nephew too. I love you just like I love my nephew. I got a bunch of nephews. And so I think that just helps him know that we're all here. That he could share certain things with each one of us separately, or he could just say hey and be happy. Whatever he needs, he has people he can rely on, whether it's his grandmother, his dad, his grandparents, aunties, uncles. He has a really good support system. And I know that would just make her so proud, that we're all rallying together. She's still bringing us together, to take care of and look out for him. And he's just been so resilient. So I truly, truly love that, because can you imagine if you and Lynn, had such a huge support system, being little kids, people checking on you, you got those phone calls to see how you were doing. We live and learn, but the thing is, are we learning? We have to learn and help the next generation or the next group. So I love how we all come together, and I know you're coming out soon too, and how we just rally around it in support of his mom. He doesn't have to do it or be there alone, and it helps all of us. It's not a matter of he's going through; we're all going through. So we could be a source of strength for each other, and we get together. Just the joy and the love in the room for him, radiates to all of us. So we're kind of being a support system for each other within that.
Oh yeah, and definitely. And I think the consistency really helps him because he's seeing, um, dang, okay, they're texting me and they're calling me
Mhm.
every week.
Yeah,
Wow,
checking on
okay, all
it.
right, they
Exactly.
still here. They still texting me. They
Yeah.
still
Mhm.
calling me.
A
And
year
that means,
later, you're like, they're
right,
not
and
giving up
that,
on me.
right, and I think for that in itself means a lot to a child who's lost a parent
Yeah. Big time.
is
Big time.
that consistency. So I think that, for him, it probably means a lot to see the people that are showing up for him, even now, a year later, because I had texted him earlier, and he and I were texting yesterday,
Mhm.
and he asked me, he's like, Aunt LeJune, are you gonna try to make it to my graduation? I'm like, baby,
Trying, huh? I
I'm
know.
coming, baby.
We were
I'm
frantically working on it last night.
coming.
But yes. It's like
Like
everybody show
we
be there.
are, and
Yeah.
he was like, "Are you guys gonna come to dinner, please?" And I'm like, I'm coming. I'm
Gonna be
coming.
there. Yeah.
So I will definitely be there. I'm so proud of him and so excited for him at
Mm.
the same time. How fast everything went. So
Yeah.
it's drop of the dime. He was 18. I'm like,
I
oh
know.
my gosh. I was texting him. I'm like, happy
Oh,
18th
exactly. And school is over.
and
Today I
school
was like, oh my
is
God, you're done with school. Like, you're not a high school student anymore. You're just waiting on graduation.
you
Like,
are you
my
are
God.
you are officially an adult
Yeah,
at this
exactly.
point. As of next week, it's
Yeah.
official.
Mhm.
So, I tell him all the time, I'm like, your mom is so proud because you and I talked about her calling him Vincent. He's like,
Yes.
what does that mean? And I
Oh
sent him
God, yes.
the
Vincent,
show
Vincent.
Vincent, and he's like, don't know whether to be offended or laugh at
Yeah.
the same time. And I'm
Exactly.
like, I said that's where it comes
Yeah.
from. I said, and it's also close to your name. And he's like,
Yeah, that's what I
I
tell
know,
him. Like,
and
hey,
yeah,
sounds
'cause
similar.
yes, because when she first called him that, and I was like, "Who's Benson?" And she's like, "Oh, Benson," and I'm like,
Mhm.
"What?" And she and I used to watch that show. I told him she and I used
Mhm.
to watch that show when she would spend a night. Most the summers she would spend a night in my house, and
Mhm.
we would watch different shows and movies. Scary movies was our thing. So I don't even know why, but I don't even watch horror
I don't
movies.
do scary. No,
We
I
used
don't
to
do
watch
scary.
scary movies and would stay up all night, and we would have so much fun, and just those times were
Yeah.
just so amazing. And like I told you, I said I'm pretty sure my mom was really happy every time she spent the night because I watched scary movies, but I was scared to sleep by myself.
Yeah.
So
It's like, hey, I got a partner
I
now.
got a partner now, and my mom's like, is she spend the night again? And she like, mm-hmm. She can move in if
Like,
she
come
wants.
on, okay? Y'all can watch all the scary movies and sleep in there.
Whatever, as long as you ain't in my bed. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, so definitely, definitely, definitely. So, would you, what advice or suggestions or anything that you would give to someone who has experienced, as you have, multiple losses, um, and the physical aspect of those losses? What would you give to them?
um, Kind of like I said before, it's everybody's process is different, and I always go back to grieve however you need to grieve, grieve however long you need to grieve, and don't let anybody dictate, hey, okay, get over it, or whatever, because again, I experienced that more than once, and I didn't like it because until you're walking in their shoes, you can't. There's no way you can understand. And I know that for a fact because I couldn't have understood, when I had a friend who lost their parents. I imagined myself understanding, like, oh, I'll be devastated, but it's always worse than what you think. So just to know if you have a support system, you have somebody you can lean on. Sometimes people shut people out because they don't want to bother them or they just kind of want to handle it on their own. And like I said, if you're holding on to it, if you don't know what to do with that grief, you don't know how to handle it, if you're using bearing it as a tool to get over it, it's gonna come back on you. It's gonna affect you in a bad way. And the longer you do it, the more it's affecting you. It starts with stress and anxiety and grief builds all that up, and then it'll start turning physical. And it may not happen in a year or two. It may be 10 years, but it's gonna catch up with you until you deal with it. And that's with anything in life. Any stressor in life, any downfall or sadness you have in life, you have to deal with it. You have to learn how to deal with it. And that's from a kid on up to an old person dealing with it. You have to learn how to deal with it and walk with it through life and know that it's not the end all be all as much as it feels like it is. This too shall pass. You'll get past it. It'll take time, but you'll get past it. And, it's been such a blessing with Glenn because she left us so many memories, because she carried so much positivity and joy, because she took so many pictures and videos and, traveled with her a lot. It's like those little memories, those pictures, that we all have of her, we can kind of go back and reflect on that time. So sometimes just reflecting on the good memories and good times that you had with that person helped tremendously. If they're kids, adults, check on your people. I say it again, we got to check on our people. If you're going through something and somebody else is going through something, y'all check on each other. Y'all check on each other. I know I had my aunt who's older than me, and she's like, you be sure to check on me. I'm like, you might need to check on me. Like, I'm in a worse position than you just because I'm younger. And she's like, well, we'll check on each other. And you have
Oh,
to do that. You have to be there for each other. People who aren't going through anything, just go on with life and they're happy-go-lucky. But take a moment to be selfless and think about people around you. Hey, oh, you know what? My friend was going through some financial difficulties last year, last month. Such lost somebody a year ago. Hey, she lost her aunt the other day. And check on your people. We need to become a village more so than anything, and look out for people the way it used to be in the olden days. I know my grandmother. They looked out for each other. Even in our era, you go over to somebody's house, they're in charge of you. You're acting up, you can get the same butt whooping somebody
Mhm.
else got. But they looked out for you. They made sure you had something to eat and some water while you were playing at their house. We were a community. We were a village. Regardless, we looked out for each other, and we've gotten so far away from that to the point of it's more selfish. Of I'm about me and my household, me and my family. I'm taking care of what's in this house. But there's still people out there. We've lost that sense of kindness and care and selflessness, and we become so selfish with our emotions, with our love, with our feelings on some things, and we gotta branch out and just rally around, each other. And I appreciate things like there are people who, maybe I went to high school with or just knew growing up, and I just get a random message, from somebody, and it's like, hey, how you doing? And it's random, and that means the most. Somebody who isn't in your daily circle checking on you when though you need those people in your daily circle to check, but it doesn't matter who's checking it. It just helps, to check on somebody. So just my advice would just to be, if you're grieving, go through your own process, find somebody you could talk to you trust. Don't hold it in. As an adult, get a therapist. Pretty much most jobs cover therapy. And I know we have this stigma with therapists because I had it. And then as soon as I got a therapist, it took all my problems away in that moment because I realized I had grief that I hadn't dealt with from my parents 10 years before. And my grandmother, they all passed in a year. And it's like I took on watching my grandmother being so strong. I'm like, okay, my mom passed. Okay, I got to take care of my dad, my grandmother, and my nephew. And then my dad passed. Like, okay, I got to take care of my nephew and my grandmother. Then 8 days later, my grandmother passed. Like, okay, I got to
Mhm.
take care of my nephew. It's constantly, I got to take care of somebody else, not realizing I'm not taking care of myself in this
So,
bubble. You have to take care of yourself, and that's when all that grief and emotion and everything just kind of starts just, knocking down little granules of salt in your body, and you're not feeling it, and then it's a year or two later, you feel a little something, but you're like, it's probably, and it's slowly working on you because you haven't dealt with it, you haven't resolved it, you haven't taken care of it. So I would say, as an adult or for your kids, again, jobs have insurance for a reason, and a lot of them cover your household. Whoever's dealing with something in your household, if you lost your husband, your wife, your whatever, you can get therapy for yourself and your children. So therapy should be pushed a little more. Again, I used to be against it. We think, oh, therapy for you got something wrong with you, your mind's wrong. It's like, no, no, no. Therapists have therapists, so we all need help sometimes. And we take it to the Lord. We pray if you're spiritual, whatever your path is, but you still, it doesn't hurt to add an additional person in there as well with your praying and, with your spirituality. And as far as people who haven't been through anything, people who have, be a support system for somebody. People are struggling and you wouldn't even know they're struggling. The happiest people are the saddest people. The people who are smiling the most and keeping you joyful and making everybody laugh are some of the people who deal with the most deep grief. Look at was Robin Williams and
mhm.
what was the dancer on Ellen Twitch. You
Oh
like, oh,
yeah.
they're so happy, they bring joy every day, and it's like they're in turmoil. So you never know what anybody's going through. And the bad part about that is, soon as somebody's gone, then everybody's on their Facebook page. Oh my God, I wish I knew. Is that my cousin? Is this and that? It's like that's not doing nobody good, and nobody wants to see that. Be there
Right.
for people while they're here. Don't come on my Facebook page if I'm gone talking about, oh, Angel was this, and I remember when we. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Be there for me now. Don't come playing like we were besties on Facebook. Don't do that. People have to stop doing that. Like, be there. So if anything were to happen, you could be a, a pillar of support for them in that time.
Mhm.
Maybe turn that around so that person doesn't get to that point. There's so many cries for help that go unnoticed. It could just be like they picked up the phone and called you randomly and they're talking about nothing. And you're like, this is boring. Let me get off this phone. No, they just may need to talk to somebody in that
Mhm.
moment. We have to be more cognitive to others and more caring and more patient. Um, we can all make time when we want to make time. Life is busy for all of us. It's hectic for all of us. It's hard for all of us. But take a moment out. Oh, Tuesday, every Tuesday, I'm gonna call a friend. A different friend, and just see how they're doing. Or hey, I'm just gonna put me a text group together of family or of a couple of friends, and we're just gonna check on each other. It means a lot. It really does, just to have that somebody daily saying, "Hey, how are you doing? How's your day going? Good morning." We have to rally around each other. We really do.
Yep, and definitely I love what you said about coming together as a community, not just for the repast, the funeral, and just vanishing. I think that's really big is, the consistency of family checking in on one another, phone call, text message. If you live in the same city or state, stopping by to see that person is really needed because,
Yeah.
I tell you all the time, I get people and doing Uber that's
Mhm.
literally they get in, they just start talking, and it's
Talking. Yeah.
like I just say how you doing, and it just be like and I'm
Open the
like,
floodgates.
oh,
They needed somebody to release to, and sometimes it's not family or friends. You need somebody to talk to who's not going to judge you. Sometimes a stranger will do
mhm.
because they're just going to
And
listen.
I get that, and I get them to their destination, and they still talking. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's
Time
what you
for you to
needed.
go.
But yeah, so I always look at it like that, where it's not like, okay, don't talk to me type
Yeah.
situation. But I think that's important. And, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I always thank you for being there and at her lowest
Mhm. Yeah.
and being there for Vincent because it's not I've never experienced it and I've never seen it, and I could only imagine seeing someone go through that healthy stage and start to decline.
Deteriorate.
Um, and I've never experienced it, and I you sent me the picture of her, and I couldn't even recognize her face. It
Mhm.
was like she was trying to smile
Yeah.
through
Through
what
the
she was
pain.
going through. And literally, it started, becoming a
Yeah.
skeleton. She was losing all this weight and stuff. So, again, I always thank you. I thank you for being there for Vince, and, thank you for managing and making sure everything was handled for her services and her housing and the car, which was a headache. We ain't even gonna
It's
get in that.
okay. I would do it all again for her.
So
And thank
that
you for helping during times too. I appreciate it. I
you
do.
are,
When you're thanking me, that was my next thing for you. Thank you for popping in. We've always known each other, but we got closer when she passed, and I appreciate you calling and checking on me. And we just kind of it became a daily thing. You check on me daily. You provide support for me. You've helped me through the last year as well, talking through it and being able to vent. So I thank you as well for being there. I thank you for checking on her too. And like you said, that I've never been through that. We have relatives, friends. You hear they got cancer. You go visit them, you go see them, but to be there day in day out to see how quickly, cancer is a beast, and it takes no holds bar, and that's what she used to say. She's like, this is cancer is a monster. She's like, it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not to see somebody vibrant and happy and joyful just to be declined, and you stop seeing the smile, even though they try to have joy in the spirit. It's hard seeing that person not be who they've always been, and that's a state of drama. People who are caregivers, you go through grief before you even get to the point of them not being here. That's a whole nother topic of caring for somebody and watching them go through that journey, and then losing them, and then I never thought about all that. I did for my parents. My parents were, they passed quickly. My dad was instantaneously. My mom was, 8 days in ICU. But having to do the things after, it's hard. And like I said previously, you kind of you're caring for them. You see them go through it. Then you're doing things. You're taking care of the house, like you said, the car, and it's like everybody saw her happy and healthy. Everybody saw her at the funeral, and they're able to move on with their grief. But when you have to do things after that, it's like it's prolonging your grief. You're not able to grieve yet. It's like I gotta
Yeah.
focus and take care of things. And till that's done, you can't grieve. And then when you finally get the opportunity, it could kind of take you over. So we really have to find some kind of way in the midst of to take care of ourselves, and again, check on people who are caregivers, provide that help. But like I said, I thank you too. I thank you for being a support to me. I
You
really
are,
do.
and you are welcome because I think a part of me knew,
Mhm.
but I think it was also her. And
Yeah.
it was literally like Angel is trying to do everything by herself. And I'm like, okay, let me reach out because I feel like Angel is trying to do
Yeah.
everything by herself.
You know it.
And
I had a little
when,
bit of help, and I didn't
yeah,
realize how it was taking a toll. You
yeah,
don't realize. And
you
so
don't, you
somebody
don't
saw me hopping around, like, sit down. I'm like, no. They're like,
and
Angel, you can barely sit
yeah,
up.
and it's literally that thing you're trying to get stay busy,
Yeah.
but at the same time the reality is, okay, I'm trying to get this done. I'm trying to close
Mhm.
this off because I'm trying to heal. I can't
Yeah.
heal because I'm still here where it happened.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's
Yes.
it's 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 definitely not, I'm sure it wasn't an easy thing, and I can only imagine because I know a lot of the family was asking if I was coming home, and I was like, no. I said, I don't want to see her like that, nor do I want my thought process of the last time I saw her.
Yeah.
She
To
was
be
like that.
tainted by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to remember her as that vibrant, that smile, that, no, girl, I want to remember
Exactly.
her as
Happy
that,
go lucky
that
Lynn. Yeah.
happy go lucky because I'm like, I don't want to see, her face because I went to one of my friends, her mom had passed away from cancer. And I hadn't been to a funeral since I was 18. That was Kawan
Wow.
Patterson's funeral. Yeah.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I was
Mhm.
literally
I remember
like,
that.
I don't I don't want to continue to see this if I
Yeah.
don't have to.
Yeah. We lost a
So
lot of classmates around that
we
time too.
yeah, so for her, how she always shows up for me, and I was like, well, I'll just go to the wake, which, here they have like the viewing. It's not even the wake. You have the viewing, then the funeral.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't, because I loved her mother. I knew her mother. I loved her mother. She was Caribbean lady, so much energy, spunky lady. And I was like, I don't want to see her like that because
Yeah.
the chemo, the process that,
Yeah.
Naomi was telling me about. And just so happened they were getting ready to close the casket, and just me hearing that, I turned and I saw her, and she was unrecognizable
Mhm.
from the chemo. and
Yeah.
losing all the weight. And just seeing that, and that was in 2023, just seeing that and knowing how cancer can destroy your body,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to remember her like that.
Like that. Mm. That's a good.
And yeah, and just having that moment, I was like, I'm already, I was already trying to wrap my head around it. I'm already struggling with the process of every morning. That was our thing. We text each other every
Yeah.
morning,
Yeah.
and
As
it
soon as
was,
it's gone.
like I can't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like I can't do that, even though I know she will, she's not here
Yeah.
anymore. But it's
Mm-hmm.
always like we said, last time you were here, those, and you saying all the cardinal birds
Mm-hmm. Yes.
as a
We're
reminder
all over the
of,
place.
right.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it is always something where I'm like, okay, I feel, or sometimes I can hear her voice saying
Yeah.
something like God is still in control or something like that.
Yeah. The
So
present.
it's the present. So it's always there. And, again, always so appreciative of having her,
Yeah.
not just again as a cousin, but
Mhm.
as a sister, as a
Yeah.
friend, as that support system. Just having her. So definitely, definitely. But as we said, if you are dealing with grief or lost somebody, don't just try to sweep it under the rug or deal with it, because trust me, it will come up for you. I couldn't remember how long it had been when I did my live last week. It was 40 years since I lost my dad.
Wow.
And just Bali saved my life because I didn't understand it, and that's why I work with kids in the area of childhood trauma, because that is a form, of abandonment, of grief, and things like that, because you feel abandoned when you lose
Yeah.
somebody, and not that they purposely left. It's
Mhm.
they're gone. So
Exactly.
definitely that is, I want it to be okay. I want to help kids with their trauma, with their grief, and being able to voice how they're feeling, not having a parent or a grandparent or a sibling or whoever it is in their lives. So definitely get the help that you need. Don't think you crazy because you get a therapist.
Exactly.
'Cause
Help. It helps.
it does help. It does help. And I love my therapist. Oftentimes she'll check in and she's like, how's the grief going? Is there anything coming up for you? And I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah.
So definitely having somebody like that,
Yeah.
um, definitely, check in with yourself and not just ignore yourself. Have those conversations. But definitely, definitely, definitely. And again, it takes, like you said, it takes a while. It's not an overnight thing of, oh my gosh, I'm over it.
Exactly. Like I'm cured.
Oh yeah,
No.
no,
No.
no, no. Those memories don't come up. Them holidays, them birthdays. So definitely, definitely, definitely. Thank you so much again. And I say this to you on the regular anyway. So definitely thank you for being you and
You.
being an amazing friend. Um, And definitely, Lynn, we thank you so much for what you
Yes.
have poured into our lives and continue to pour with you not even being here. So we thank you for that. And we thank you for such an amazing son that you have. So
Yes.
we thank you. And we will always love and appreciate you. So until next time, this is Mind, Health, and Wellness with LaJune and our special guest, Angel Malone.
Thank you. Love you, Lynn.